Hello, I'm Charles Kovess, Australasia's passion provocateur. Welcome to this week's episode of The Charles Kovess Show. In this week's episode, I explore aspects of the game of politics and your part in it, the role that you might play in it. It's a complex game, and working out what part you are meant to play in it, what part you might want to play in it, is quite difficult. And so you might choose not to play any part at all. Today's show is designed to help your thinking about politics and a way that you might decide to change what you do about politics. I also explore the difference between conviction politicians and career politicians. I'm confident that this week's show will give you some insights in ways that you might think differently. And after all, that's what progress is all about, learning new ways to think about stuff. Stick around. I think it'll be useful. This weekly show is founded on the formula SA plus P equals S. Self-awareness plus passion equals success. Since 1993, when I left my legal career, a successful legal career, although now I'm moving back into it, as some of you realise, as a legal strategist, I have been educating, inspiring and provoking audiences and individuals to discover and pursue passion. When you live life with passion, everything changes. It's an unlimited source of energy from your soul. And when you have a lot of energy, you can cope with amazingly more challenges in your life, including the challenge of thinking about politics. I have helped people with the books that I've written, the speeches I've shared in conferences, the ongoing work I've done with teams, and with one-on-one coaching. My first book was Passionate People Produce. My second book, Passionate Performance. I've had great feedback from those books over the years. So if you haven't read them, I hope you might consider doing so. This show is also guided by Socrates' famous principle that the unexamined life is not worth living. So I hope to provoke you to raise your self-awareness about what your life is actually about. You can see I'm wearing my red jacket, red, the colour of passion, so that it reminds you when you see red in your day-to-day living, you go, oh, red is passion. I wonder whether I am pursuing my passion, or what am I doing to actually identify my passion and then to be able to make this decision whether I pursue it. Each week in this show, I explore one big idea that I think will be helpful for you. One big idea that provokes you in a way that you go, oh, wow. And that's the journey of life. As Buckminster Fuller says, your reward for solving problems is bigger problems. If you were stuck in the same rut all your life, learning nothing new, life would be miserable. Progress makes us happy. I hope to influence your progress in a way that's good for you. I focus on one idea because too many ideas can become confusing, and then we choose to do nothing. With that one idea, I share with you resources, a song, a book, a quote, a spiritual tip, a health tip, and some humour. After all, life was not meant to be totally serious, or indeed, some people say there's no evidence at all that life was meant to be taken seriously. And in the context of our lives of 100, 120 years, in the context of a 4 billion year old planet and a 13 billion year old universe, who knows? Maybe it is all a joke. This show is definitely not politically correct. I don't want to be politically correct. I do support useful addictions like my addiction for coffee. Coffee is the fuel that enables me to do this show. Without coffee, there'd be no Charles Kovess show. Thank you, Julie, for helping me enjoy this. This show definitely subscribes to the view that we have a spiritual life. that deep within us is our spirit, our soul, our heart. That's where passion comes from. And that when you understand the spiritual elements of our lives, your enjoyment of it, your understanding of it, your awareness of it raises dramatically. So, what's happened this week as we're in episode 83 of this show? Well, in Victoria, with the world's worst leader, Daniel Andrews, an evil genius, I call him. He has taken new steps in overreach of government, in demolishing democracy, in imposing, giving himself new powers. He has a totally compliant group of leaders around him who clearly do whatever he wants them to do. It is disgusting, the new legislation that's proposed in this state, so that the Premier of this state can decide when there is a pandemic or when there isn't a pandemic, when we can lock down or not. Nothing to do with outside advisors. No, he just wants that power for himself. And still 52% of the people in Victoria think he's doing a good job. Maybe that's why I'm talking about politics today, because so many people have no idea what's happening. They've taken the blue pill. They are under hypnosis that what's happening to Victoria is good. Well, I disagree, as you may well know. Our Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, is going to Glasgow for climate change discussions. When the President of Russia isn't going, when Xi Jinping from China is not going, and when the climate activists, and this is an interesting observation that you can see, when the climate activists are driving the agenda and they say the science is settled, I say BS again, that the climate, of course the climate changes, it's different every day. And there is so much misinformation being peddled out there that people, it closes over their eyes. But I say that Scott Morrison is going to pay a price for his behaviour, and then making these announcements of net zero by 2050, billions of dollars thrown at all of these new initiatives in the hope that he's going to be elected next year. I think the Scott Morrison government has so lost sight of any of the principles for which it stands that it will be decimated. And I think the conversations that are going on in Glasgow are so driven by activists in the climate change space who have a globalist agenda, which is one world government. Beware, people. They want the power in one world government that says Australia can only do this, America can only do that, and the risk is dramatic loss of sovereignty, of decision-making ability. That's what I see is going on. The money that is being thrown at all of these so-called initiatives, think of who's going to get access to this money. That is not government money at all, but is taxpayer money. That is our money. Politicians throw it around, get the votes, and in Australia, what's remarkable is that so many, probably 60% of the population is doing well under these outrageous new rules that apply, the lockdown rules, the pandemic nonsense rules, and it is big business that is winning. It is small to medium enterprises that are being decimated. It is children's lives that are being decimated. The adverse events that are piling up from the jabs that are being put into people, I am keeping those statistics. I get feedback from people whose lives have been decimated from these jabs. I'm helping people who have lost their jobs because they refuse the jab. I say that employers who slavishly embrace the idea that you can't come to work without a jab will be in trouble. They will be sued and will pay out. Workers' compensation will be paying out big time. Our society, many societies around the world, are being decimated by these nonsensical behaviours by government that are being approved by people because there are handouts left, right, and centre. In the meantime, people's lives are being decimated, all in the name of public safety. Isn't that grand? Because the game plan of the globalists is what's called UBI, a universal basic income. The globalists want you to be entirely dependent on government. They hate the entrepreneurs in society. They hate people who can think for themselves. Are you able to think for yourself? I abhor apartheid. I abhor what I call medical apartheid, where people who haven't been jabbed will be treated differently to people who have been jabbed, again in the name of public safety. I call BS on this as well. I also act for and advise a number of doctors who have been corruptly suspended by AHPRA, and I say AHPRA is corrupt. I say the TGA is corrupt. I will be helping guide court cases against both TGA and AHPRA for their corruption. They have totally destroyed the doctor-patient relationship in this country by punishing any doctor that dares to question the wisdom of you having a jab. However, in the meantime, I assure you, I am happy. I'm passionate about these issues. I think Australia is in great danger of being destroyed. That's what I think. And I think if we don't understand the principles for which we stand, then anything goes. What's tragic is that a majority of people in this country would prefer to give away their freedom, would prefer to give away their principles for the illusion of security. Well, that's what the communists promised when they first came to power. And have a look how Stalin went about that. Have a look how Mao Zedong went about that with China. Have a look what it's like for those living under totalitarian regimes. However, I again tell you, I'm happy. Julie and I are happy. I'm exercising every day. I'm fit and healthy. So please don't think that I'm in despair. I am ready to fight because I think we're in World War III, so I need to be fit and healthy to do that while I'm drinking my coffee. I presume during the war, in fact, I read stories about Sir John Monash, while the war is going on, people sit around drinking coffee and tea. Maybe that's what they do. So, to today's big idea, before I do, I invite you to subscribe to this podcast, to subscribe to the YouTube if you're watching it. If you enjoy, please share it with your family and friends and colleagues. Visit our websites, covest.com, charlescovest.com. If you have any suggestions for topics or issues you want me to raise, please email us. I'll be happy to explore them. At charlescovest.com you can explore more detail about the Self-Awareness and Passion Quest. You can also get the manifesto for the Self-Awareness and Passion Quest for free as a download. So, to today's big idea. The game of politics and the role that you might play in it. It is a game, and you have to play a role in it. But it's like sport. You can either play the sport, you can either administer the sport, or you can be a spectator. You can watch what's going on. Interestingly, the income of sports people is directly linked to the number of people who are interested in watching that sport. So your watching of the sport is nevertheless playing a role in it, and doing nothing about it is also playing a role in it. The question is how to think about politics, because it is so complicated. Buckminster Fuller, of whom I'm a big fan, as regular viewers and listeners would know, says, your role in life is to do what you see needs to be done. You uniquely see. No one else. What do you see needs to be done about politics, about politicians? Be they local level, in municipal affairs, at a state level, at a national level. I used to think there are too many politicians, but if politicians are too far away from what's actually happening in people's lives, they simply don't understand. That's why I'm against one world government. Imagine one world government trying to deal with 8 billion people. Who would you write to? You'd be dealing with unelected bureaucrats, and the people who control this global government, by the way, which is never discussed, which would be a disaster. But you could never influence what the politicians do, so you're dealing with unelected bureaucrats if that were the case. That's why there's merit in having politicians close to where the action is. But if a vast majority of people don't care about politics and we've got a democratic system, then politicians do whatever they like, which is going to be entirely good for for certainly the career politicians. What's good for them? Corruption will abound. The taxes will be imposed. It's literally like having a dictator at the top where they just do what they like. So if nobody takes an interest, I have no doubt that a country will totally disintegrate. And there are failed states, called failed states, countries that just don't operate well. I look at Afghanistan. For hundreds of years, it's been run by tribes. It's not a country, it's a series of tribes. There are other countries in Africa where corrupt leaders make life shocking for people. Of course there's corruption. It's a question of how much corruption. It's not black or white. There is corruption, there isn't corruption. It's on a sliding scale. And the less people who take an interest in politics, the more corruption there is. The more politicians make decisions based on their own self-interest, even though they make those decisions. Shining a light on corruption is like bringing tuberculosis out into the sunshine. It's a chance to improve it. It's like being cooped up in a house in darkness and all sorts of shady deals are being done, and you come out into the light. The problem is, who's got the time to take an interest in politics? And then you go, well, what principles do you think politicians should live by? And each of us has different views about those principles. But there are some crucial principles that have been developed over the last 1,000 years in the development of humanity. There are some people who think that life is totally shocking on this planet and all systems should be destroyed. I know people like that. They go, this whole Westminster system is a nonsense, but they don't have a different solution for how to run the complexities of human beings, of all of our differences. But giving up about it is also not a good strategy. And what's interesting is what Buckminster Fuller said, that the one thing that you know or an insight that you have might just be the crucial insight that's going to make life a bit better. Now, there are conviction politicians and career politicians, and that's where principles and values come into play. A career politician is defined as somebody who is only in politics for their own career. It gives them a job, gives them a nice secure income, it gives them power. Where a conviction politician will make decisions based on their conviction to their principles and values, even if it doesn't cost them votes. Whereas a career politician will simply go with the wind and make decisions based on what's going to ensure that he keeps being elected. Now, Niccolo Machiavelli in The Prince said that beautiful quote, "Power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely." And so when well-meaning people go into politics, they probably have some principles and values, but it seems to me that certainly in Australia, when you become a politician, it's such a cushy job, it is such a nice place to be, that the last thing that you want to do is to lose that influence, that power, that status, that nice income. So that's what we're dealing with. And if you do not take an interest in it, then the career politicians will take over, principles will disappear out the window, and Australia, as it is right now, at risk, Australia becomes ever more deeply at risk. When you read anything about politics, including the 9 years of or from 1891 to 1901, when we became a federation, it was 10 years of hard conversation, lobbying, of debating. That's what we need. We need that ability in the open to explore ideas. And then if 55% of people say we should live this way, not that way, then we move that way. And then if that doesn't work, we move back the other way. It's like flying to the moon. The first spaceship that ever went to the moon was on target 3% of the time. It was left, right, zigzagging to its destination. And that, of course, that is another question. What is the ultimate destination? What is the good life? And they are the debates that have happened over the last, over millennia. If you don't take a part in that, then other people will, but then we miss out on the value of your opinion about that part. And that's why I think the Andrews government is in trouble, because there's insufficient useful political debate. The other issue is that Daniel Andrews is a career politician. He has never been involved in business. He has no understanding of business. Like many people in politics, if they're career politicians, they don't understand what's needed for business. So the question is, what do you want in this country? What principles do you think should apply? And what part can you play in the development of this country? Because you are responsible. You've heard me say this before. You are responsible for the future of Australia, for the future of the country in which you live. I'm responsible. I urge you to spend some time thinking about it so that you can make this decision. This is the role I'm going to play, and then you play that role. It doesn't mean that you have to do everything to a huge degree, but to ignore the issues. To ignore the issues, I think, enables politicians to get away with far more than if people are interested in the game of politics. And I want you to think about the failed states on this planet and the successful states, the successful countries. And you think, what is it that makes them successful? What would you like your country to look like if you thought that it was successful? They are complex questions. They are worth thinking about. So, my book for you this week, a book or a movie, is to explore the life of William Wilberforce. He was an English politician who was a key player in the abolition of slavery that was permitted in England and then abolished. But he was a wealthy guy in the UK Parliament, and he dedicated his life and his wealth to the abolition of slavery. And when he first started on the journey, he had one other colleague in Parliament supporting him, and after 30 years of work, it was abolished. It cost him his health, it cost him his wealth, and it ultimately cost him his life. But we remember him because of this amazing contribution that he made. I find it an inspiring story that goes, doing what you think needs to be done can have such a profound impact on humanity, of just one person doing what they see needs to be done, and that inspires other people around them. My song this week is suggested by a friend of mine, Tony, The Needle and the Damage by Neil Young. Very appropriate at this time of we're talking about jabs and the like. Neil Young, The Needle and the Damage. Thank you, Tony, for that suggestion. My spiritual tip is that you spend time meditating on the role that you might choose to play in politics. And it takes a deep meditation because meditation is taking your mind out of the way and giving space to your soul, to your spirit, to your heart, which is where passion comes from. And you go, what am I passionate about? What life should be like? And that will help you then to make decisions based on your spiritual principles of what you might do about this complex question of politics. My health tip in a situation where Queen Elizabeth, obviously drink coffee, I mean that's one of my health tips, but Queen Elizabeth, who became monarch a year after I was born, she became the Queen in 1953. So since I was one, she has been the Queen of England and the Queen of Australia. So she, I understand, I've been usefully advised or reliably informed that her family relies on homeopathy for improved health. And homeopathy is different to allopathic medicine. And allopathic medicine is all about drugs, is all about big pharmaceutical company. Homeopathy is about holistic understanding of how the body works, of mind and body and spirit. I urge you to take an interest in homeopathy, particularly if you've had the jab and you're feeling, that your body has been impacted. Homeopathy is often rubbished by medicos, but there are many people who absolutely swear by it. And if it's only a placebo effect, who cares? Because your mind is so powerful that it can heal your body, and your body is the actual healer. So if you help your body heal itself through the practice of homeopathy, then who cares if you're getting healthier? And my quote this week is in fact a series of quotes tied into my humour this week, because I was thinking, politics, jokes, well, it's all to do with words, isn't it? So here's some words for you to live by. Never, under any circumstances, take a sleeping pill and a laxative on the same night. Going to church doesn't make you a Christian any more than standing in a garage makes you a car. Think about that. Artificial intelligence. We hear a lot about that, but artificial intelligence is no match for natural stupidity. Here's one relevant to politics. For every action, there is an equal and opposite government program. Next one, if you look like your passport picture, you probably need the trip. Eat well, stay fit, die anyway. A balanced diet is a bacon and egg McMuffin in each hand. Junk is something you've kept for years and you throw away 3 weeks before you need it. And lastly, also relative to politics, if you had to identify in one word the reason why the human race has not achieved its full potential, that word would be meetings. There you are, there's a thought for you. How useful are your meetings? So, think about it. How today's big idea can help you make progress in your life. How thinking about the role that you might play in politics raises your self-awareness about who you are and who you want to be and how you want to live your life and what sort of country you want to live in. I again invite you to visit our websites, covest.com, charlescovest.com. Subscribe to Passion Points to Ponder. My books are available there. Passionate people produce passionate performance. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast or to the YouTube channel. And again, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for sharing this show with other people. I hope it's making a difference, a positive difference to your life. I wish you a week of passion, of embracing the challenges in your life, and at the same time living life in a way where you are happy to live on this planet, on this spaceship Earth, to understand that the journey that each one of us is going on is an important one, and that each one of us can play a role in the advance of humanity and the universe. Have a good week. See you next week. Bye.